Hello and welcome to Exceptional Undergrads, a podcast where we identify young adults that have achieved exceptional levels of success at a young age. My name is Jack, and my job is to explore their tools, actions, and habits to provide practical advice for you to use on your journey to becoming successful. I strive to provide listeners with inspiration that can be applied in your own lives, as I believe it is within the capabilities of any young adult to achieve exceptional levels of success at a young age. All resources mentioned in the episode will be listed off at the end and will be uploaded to the resources page of our website. Now let's jump in and learn some practical advice from the dorm room next door. Today I welcome Jack Jaramillo to the show. This is the second part of Jack's episode, so if you haven't listened to part 1, go check it out. Some background information on Jack. Jack is currently a sophomore at High Point University, pursuing dual degrees in finance and data science. Jack is motivated daily to learn and grow from challenges. He loves to travel and is passionate about living a less traditional lifestyle, one similar to the one outlined in one of his favorite books, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I had a blast learning more about his journey towards, as he calls it, an endless summer. In this second part of the episode, we cover more about meditation and self-reflection, journaling, being bored, the impacts of social media, and how we get the most out of apps while limiting our usages. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Jack Jaramillo. As I get older, I realize as life goes on, eventually you're going to move into other stages of your life, and you're not the kid who is running around like a chicken with his head cut off. I mean, you eventually, as you get older, obtain more responsibilities. And I love the fact that I've already had the opportunity to help people, and I want to continue to do that throughout my entire life. And one of my goals that I have in the future is to have a family, a wife and children, and I want to be able to raise those kids and teach them and help them learn and grow to be wonderful, strong individuals who can hold their own in this crazy world, and people who also love to give to others and make sure that not only do they first, of course, establish that trust within themselves, but be able to establish that trust in others. And I feel like although that's out there in time and in the future, I feel like all these moments that you have in your life, all of the moments that you have in your life have, in the past, have built you up to the person who you are today. All these events, all these experiences, you cannot go back and change them. Even a few minutes ago, I had like a sip of water or something. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. I'm kind of locked in here. But if I didn't have that sip of water, maybe I wouldn't be as parched from speaking for a while. But all jokes aside, all the different stuff, I truly believe that all the different experiences that you've been through in your life, and I've been through in my life, has made me the person who I am today. And I would not go back and change any of the crazy stuff that's gone on in my life. I would not go back to my freshman year of college whenever I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I was completely lost. I would not go back and make sure that I was perfectly fine at that time, because if I did that, I would completely throw off the trajectory of everything that's happened in my life, and I love where I'm at right now. And I think that's something that it's a lesson that I had to learn a while ago, that if I don't take action for myself, for my future family that I want to have, probably not going to work out the way that you really want to. And I can't force anybody else to do this stuff either. I've had friends in the past, from whether it be from high school or in college, where I want to help them. I like helping people, especially people who are closer to me. And if I see things in my life and things that they're doing that I maybe feel like aren't the best things for them and their goals that they've told me as I've became close to them, try to help people. But some people are so closed off and they can't see things from a different perspective. And I know it's very tough. It's very tough to have that self-awareness, to understand like, oh, maybe what I'm doing right now is not benefiting me down the line. And you can't push anybody to do anything. You can give them the points and the potential realization of, look, man, like, this is where you're at right now. You think that you're going to go here, but you're not going there right now because you've been here for 2 years and you haven't made steps to this stuff. It's like the guy who says, and I will say it to myself as well, like a little while ago, it's the person who says he's going to get that internship. I'm going to get an internship. This is exactly what I want to do. I know it. I'm going to get an internship. I'm doing this. I'm going to start applying to internships. I'm going to start applying. And then that deadline comes around. He's applied to maybe like 3. It might seem like by looking at all these internships online or planning out this goal, planning a plan to achieve this goal, that you're doing the right stuff. And you are, but you're just not putting up enough effort, because if you want to be at this certain position that you want to be at a certain position, and you're doing the stuff that you've done over and over and over again that has not gotten you moving forward towards that position that you want to be in, eventually you have to realize that something's not adding up. Some decision that you're making is reflecting the reason why that you are not going down the path that you want to be. And as much as you want to show people, this is what it is. This is what it is. It's right here. It's right here. You're not, they most of the time won't see it, and they have to come to the realization by themselves. The thing that came into my mind was the scene in, what's the movie called? It is the one that we watched a while ago in Cafe, the weird space one.
Interstellar.
Love
that movie.
Fantastic movie.
Favorite movie.
Spoiler warning for Interstellar coming up in a second. It reminds me of the scene at the end where, I don't remember what the character's name is, the main guy.
Which one? The guy, Cooper?
Cooper. His name's Cooper.
Yeah.
I watched the movie, guys. I swear.
Okay. Well, I've also watched the movie 10 times. So.
Yeah, I have. I watched it one time. And I thought it was phenomenal, but I don't really sit around and watch. Like, that was like a 3.5 hour movie, and I just don't really sit down and watch a movie. But
love movies.
It was a fantastic movie. I will say that. Definitely go and watch Interstellar. But it reminds me of the scene at the end where Cooper is banging on like the wall in the 4th dimension or whatever the heck is going on there.
Whoa, spoilers.
Oh yeah, there's a spoiler for that. But probably. But he's like banging on the wall, and he's trying to get himself to realize that like what's going on and whatnot. And he's like banging on the wall, and like that's how like the book falls or whatnot from the start of the movie.
Wow, major spoilers.
Yeah, major spoilers for Interstellar. But sorry to anybody who hasn't watched that. Horrible. I'm spoiling it.
You're going to have to throw a spoiler warning in
I'll
there.
say something beforehand.
Oh, yeah, come on. It's also the meme, if you've seen that, where it's...
Yeah, it's the one where he's, like, hitting the wall.
Yeah.
But that right there reminds me of exactly what I'm detailing, in the sense of you can hit the wall And you could try and tell people so much so that, guys, like, this is what you need to do. And even not even like a need to do, but just a suggestion. Like, this is what I've done, and it's worked out for me. Like, maybe you should try it, but they won't see it because only they can come to that realization for themselves that I have to make the decision on my own. I can't force anybody to change. And that's, people are so reluctant to change, and they just feel like that the lifestyle they're living right now will be better than any sort of hard work that they put in. But just from my own experience, and I'm 20 years old, so of course take that with a grain of salt or whatnot. But
Oh yeah.
over the past 2 years, whenever I realized, man, if I just put in a little more work and do the hard work, especially whenever I don't feel like it, the delayed gratification activities where they're hard to do right now, but after a while they pay off. And I realize, oh, I've been meditating for basically every single day for the past 2 years. And whenever you sit down and realize, oh, like, let's try and meditate and see how long I can go for, and see if I've learned too much of anything from this. And you sit for 2 hours in one session, and you realize, oh, I'm actually good at this. This is paying off. I'm much more present because I have been meditating. I've been taking a little bit of time every single day to clear my brain and make sure I'm not thinking of a bunch of stuff. And that's helped me in not only, wow, I can sit for 2 hours. That's fantastic. Is that going to happen again? I mean, I hope so, but I don't know. It's pretty crazy. I will say that myself. But it just helps you in daily activities, like speaking right now on a podcast. I'm just speaking. I'm not thinking of a question for you. I'm not thinking of what is he going to say next, or what am I going to say next.
Really?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I'm kind of just here.
He's just spitballing. That's crazy.
Just sort of speaking.
From the heart.
I'm just unbelievably present to where I'm just being articulate in the fact that I'm just speaking and saying stuff that's coming to my mind. And whenever you get to the point where you start to implement that into conversations with other people and you're fully present, talk about active listening. You're fully present and you can just sit here and just make eye contact with the person. You're here and you're not around all over the place. You're actually here right now with them speaking. It's very life-changing, and you realize that small step of, oh, I'm going to reshape my life. And it's not I'm totally going to reshape my life. It is, but it's not like I'm reshaping my life today and tomorrow it's going to be completely different. I've got to understand that it's going to be hard right now. It'll continue to be hard. But once you get into the routine and being consistent with the stuff, it'll get better. And then over time, you wake up one day and you realize, wow, I am closer to the person who I want to be. I'm on the correct track. And that's life-changing.
Where do you meditate, if I may ask?
Yeah, so I sit down, and you haven't been in my room at all, but
No.
I have. It's like my bed. Then there's a desk on the side of the bed where I sometimes do work. I usually don't spend a lot of time at that desk because I spent a lot of time at my desk last year or in other rooms alone working, and I did a really great job of working and getting stuff done. But I feel like I should be more social with people because that's a skill that I wanted to develop in myself even more. I can be very social, and I know that I can. It's like I caught myself about being shy earlier.
Yeah.
Not shy. Not anymore. But I've tried to get out and work in places now, kind of like you do, I've noticed, where you're out working in different places where you can see people. I know we touched on that beforehand. But this desk, I pretty much sit there. I will get ready in the morning, like I'll wake up early, take a shower usually, and then sit down and meditate, and I'll meditate at this desk. And anytime I do this is after I've already made my bed in the morning as well. So it's a little morning routine for everyone. I'll wake up, and sometimes this gets thrown off if I just wake up and immediately do work, which I'll do sometimes. I'll just hop right into editing or hop right into scripting or doing something like that or writing or whatnot. But usually it's wake up, hop out of bed, try and hop out of bed as fast as possible, because once I get out of bed and throw myself into something else, I know I'm not going to go back to sleep. Even if it's like 5:30 early in the morning, it's still way dark outside. But take a shower, get ready. I usually just pick random clothes because I know I'm going to the gym, so it doesn't matter in that portion of the day. And then I'll actually get dressed like later on after the gym. Not super important, but then I make my bed, sit down with my journal, meditate. And like I said beforehand, just sit down, meditate, clear my thoughts, have that pause. I actually started thinking of meditation. I don't think of it as like 20 minutes of meditation. I think of it as like 2 minutes of meditation. Or if I'm meditating for 10 minutes, it's just like one. Like I'm cutting off the zero that I have. So a lot of time it's, for example, the 2-hour one, which that one I pushed my limits, and I'm very surprised that I was able to get that done, which is absolutely insane. It was turn on the meditation app, sit there and just basically see how long you can go. And I was like, another discipline, it was keep meditating until you hear like the bell at the chime at the end that says that you're done. And I did that, and I finished it all, which is insane to say the least. But I think of meditation nowadays as just like a one count, like a 2 count. And that obviously speaks to the level that I'm at now, where I've progressed over 2 years, basically daily, to where 20 minutes doesn't feel like it's that long. And whenever you take that same meditation aspect and put it into life, just sitting out somewhere, you realize that there actually isn't that much time. Like 20 minutes is not a whole crazy amount of time to be sitting here and being present with your surroundings. But I do sit down in my desk, and then as soon as I get out of the meditation session, it's immediately a gratitude journaling, starting off my day on the right foot. And I like doing it at that time because it preps me for my day to start it off on the right foot. I've tried experimenting with meditating like earlier in the day, and then also meditating late in the day as well, before I go to sleep or whatnot, or flipping it. I found that doing it in the morning keeps me very present for the day and starts my day off on a good foot.
Have to agree.
Exactly. I'd say it's, especially paired with journaling back to back right there, fantastic pairing. I absolutely love that. But by no means would I say you have to have an extensive, crazy morning routine to like be successful or something like that. Like you have to meditate for 20 minutes and journal and do all this other stuff. Sometimes I feel like some of that can get out of hand kind of quickly. And I'll accuse myself of doing that sometimes, because sometimes I just realize I should probably just get up and start working on stuff that I need to get done. Like there are times when it makes sense for me to hop out of bed, open up my laptop, and start writing or start working and just get after it immediately, instead of working on like hopping in the shower and meditating and doing a whole bunch of stuff. Those activities are fantastic, and I love them. They've completely changed my life. And I will say that I even said it to one person today. I said it to this one girl in my class. This is my 7:50 a.m. class. She asked me if I knew like some social media people or whatever, and I was like, yeah, like I don't know who those people are. Like, and she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I don't have any social media. I deleted that a while ago. She's like, wait, you deleted social media? Like what? Like, are you crazy? Like I can never do that. I was like, yeah, if I just replace the time that I spend on social media with more meditation and journaling and going to the gym and doing these other activities, I kept it shorter for her. I was like, yeah, you'd be surprised at how much progress you can have in an entire year, like how well I've scaled a lot of stuff. And her reaction was basically like, I mean, can't you just do both of them at the same time? And I was like, I mean, yeah, you can, but you're going to get hung up on all these distractions, because when you remove these distractions and then on top of that have the compounding effect of clearing even more distractions in your mind by meditating and journaling the thoughts that you have in your brain for gratitude journaling, as well as just straight journaling of just writing down your thoughts and writing down what you're going to decide on decisions, or writing down important decisions and stuff like that. An example of something that I'll do sometimes is journal to myself as if I'm my 85-year-old self.
I love that one.
And I'll write down a problem like, oh, should I ask out this one girl or something like that? I'm stressing about it or something. I don't know. I'm coming up with a random idea.
Can tell you listen to Hormozy.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I love Alex Hormozy.
This is his keystone thing.
This is one of his keystone things. I will shout him out for that. He's already got a lot of stuff going for him though. But I love this. And I'll say, like, example, should I ask out this one girl or whatever? I don't know. Example. And I'll journal it to myself as if I am my 85-year-old self. And usually, for most of the problems, the answer comes back with, this is stupid. Why are you thinking about this so much? Because this isn't going to affect your life at, like, my age, as in, like, the 85-year-old self. Like, is this driving you to, like, goals that, like, you want to actually achieve? Like, is this helping you become that person who you want to be, like, whenever I'm 85 at that point, whenever I'm done with everything? Not necessarily done with everything, of course, but I'm at a point in my life where I'm not necessarily taking as much action on the later half of my life. And you really figure out that a lot of the problems and a lot of the things that you have going on in your life are not really all that important. And it's those decisions that you see that I'm journaling on from my 85-year-old self that are important, are those decisions that usually I should probably just move on them. I probably shouldn't be sitting down and, like, journaling on a whole bunch of them. I usually know, like, oh, wait, this is actually pretty important. Or I probably shouldn't be thinking about this too much. It's good, though, to sit down and just write out your thoughts. I love, and something that I will say as well, it goes along with social media and just stuff in general, is people nowadays cannot be bored. They will not be bored. As soon as you're bored, for the people who aren't watching the video, I just immediately swiped on my iPad and acted like I was going crazy on social media or something. Immediately, we have access to anything that we want to with the internet. And social media has been engineered to make sure that you keep coming back and you keep scrolling the entire time. So you will never be bored, because as soon as you're on that drive, you're on this bus. Like, example, I went on a field trip the other day, a field trip in college. I didn't know how that happened, but shout out Professor Forshee with his supply chain management class. We had to drive 15 minutes over to a place to give it a tour and whatnot for supply chain. Immediately, the kid next to me, Instagram, Snapchat, listening to music, everything on his phone. I'm literally just sitting there. I'm just kind of looking out the window. I'm like, I haven't been around this area before. I kind of want to see what's going on. Like, I don't need to be on my phone at all. But there's no ability, or I shouldn't say no ability, but there's very little ability for people to just be bored. And not only have I journaled and sat and meditated, but I've had times, and I don't do this all the time because this is a little extreme, and I'm pretty extreme with a lot of the stuff that I do, from not having apps on my home screen now, or deleting social media, or just crazy meditating for 2 hours. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, walking backwards for 20 something minutes, whatever you'd see. It's laughable, and I'm laughing, and I understand that. It's like, you don't have to go to these levels, but I try this stuff out specifically to see what's going to work for me, and to say, look, you probably don't have to do all this stuff, but if this works for me, like maybe you should try some of the stuff, or maybe you should try some of it a little bit less.
No, I plan on touching on what I do in relation to what you do
Yeah,
after you're done with your thought.
for sure. But, oh yeah, staring at a wall and being bored. If you just sit there, as crazy as it sounds, to just kind of like sort of look off and just sort of like kind of let like be bored and just kind of let things come to you and just kind of see what happens. Almost use it as like another form of meditation in a sense, where you're just kind of there. You're just trying to like be present and just, wow, like that wall actually is not as smooth as I thought it was. There's a streak actually over there. It kind of looks like they wrote something on the wall to hang the painting or whatever that's over there, and it sort of looks like they forgot to erase the pencil mark that's over there.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't notice that.
Yeah.
Not at all. Like if you just take a second to be like, oh, yeah, I mean, that's actually not painted perfectly because I happened to take a second to just look at it and just be bored for a second. Instead of getting that instant gratification, the dopamine hits immediately from scrolling on Instagram and seeing random pictures of people and quote unquote friends that you follow on Instagram but you don't talk to in person, or you haven't seen them in forever. And if you called them up, you probably couldn't have a solid conversation with them, but you're friends, quote unquote friends, because you're Facebook friends or whatever, your Instagram friends or something like that. You have them on Snapchat, or I don't know. I haven't had social media in a little while, but just having that ability to take a step back, slow things down, to be bored for a second. I think if you can reestablish that connection with being bored, you can find out a lot more about yourself. A quote for you, for a person who loves quotes, is, how are we supposed to know ourselves if we're never with ourselves? If we're always doing other things and scrolling through social media and not sitting here with ourselves, with our thoughts, without our thoughts, or just anything, understanding through journaling or through meditating or being bored, how are you supposed to know what you really desire? How do you know what you're being influenced by? Are you even living a life that is yours? Are you authentic? Or are you the person on Instagram who really wants this nice car or this nice thing, and you're being extremely influenced by them because all the content that you consume is from a certain amount of people, and they have algorithms that specify everything to you perfectly so that you sit there all the time. And then the next thing you know, you find yourself back at home over the summer or whatnot, and the mission that you've been on for a while is completely shifted up because you're off kilter. I think being selective with not only who you let into your life, but the content that you consume, that's Alex Hormozy thing as well. Of you need to be very selective of everything that goes into your mind, because you can get influenced in many different ways, and who influences you influences your desires, and the desires that you have are going to influence the way that you act. And if you're acting in a completely different way than you really want to be going, because you think that you want to be going in one way based on the things that you've learned from other people, it could be detrimental. And you could wake up one day and remember, oh, actually I wanted to go a different way. Where am I? What am I doing?
So, I don't take my social media usage to as such extremes. I have it set up to, I have this app called Opal, that blocks my usage of social media or whatever apps you want to whatever time you set. So from 8 to 5:30, no, it's 7:30 to 5:30. No social media. I have Instagram blocked, Snapchat blocked, and YouTube blocked. So those are the three main apps that I was spending all my time on. And then after that, I have a 45-minute time limit for each of them. And I only ever really hit Instagram the most because it's the one that I like the algorithms is to scroll through the most, or YouTube because I like watching long form YouTube videos. So I'll watch a video essay. But it's the built discipline that once that 45 minutes is up, I don't go back. So I've created that balance for myself where I'm still in the know. I still have that little piece. Like I keep Instagram because my algorithm has selected, like I've built, like I know there's an algorithm. I know how the algorithm works. I've now built my algorithm to A, give me music recommendations and find me better artists because I love EDM. EDM is what I listen to. A lot of house music. So I use that to find, yes, sir. I use that to find smaller, more niche genres of music. So I've crafted that algorithm for that. I use it for movie recommendations because I love movies. And I could go on and on about the impact of movies on my life and how genuinely in a 2-hour time frame with movies like Inception, movies like Interstellar, they can change your whole worldview. And then I also have my algorithm set to showcase travel, various travel locations, little snippets of what my reality is going to look like and how it can be built. So that's what I use Instagram for. And I give myself that 45 minutes and generally I hit it. Some days I don't, some days I do. And then I have Snapchat mainly to talk with my 3 friends from home and my brother. So then that's the main use of Snapchat. I used to keep streaks. Then like 2 weeks ago, I was like, this is stupid. This is pointless. Lost like a 1,000-day streak. And like the first 2 days, I was like, wow, I can't believe I did that. But now I'm like, I just now remembered that I did that. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Doesn't matter anymore. And then used YouTube because before I started reading books before I go to sleep, I would watch a YouTube video before I go to sleep. I would just turn on a whatever video, some kind of a video essay, and then use that to go to sleep. But then I was like, blue light's bad. Probably shouldn't be doing that. The last thing I look at probably shouldn't be my phone. So I was like, okay, I'm going to read instead. So I like to have that balance because of how I use it is still quote unquote impactful. Not necessarily to you, but to me it is. And I can appreciate that balance. And now with those restrictions, I used to have like 5-6 hours on my phone. And like now I'm at like, what? Let's see what I'm at for today. I am at I drove for an hour and a half, so my full screen time is at 4:42. But take out like that hour and a half of driving, it's at like roughly 3 hours. So 2-hour decline, pretty significant, and it's been going down from more. I got the notification on Sunday that my total screen time was down 17% from the last week, which is a lot. And I'm going to keep working on getting that lower and lower till eventually I might not need it. But I do the whole thing of the turning my phone on grayscale to reduce the amount of dopamine hits I get. I watch my YouTube videos in black and white. Sometimes I turn color on for Instagram. Most of the times I don't. But it's still been like I still find value from what I do on social media. I just don't let it consume my time, which is more so the struggles that I've been working towards.
I like the way that you do things with social media because there can be times where if you allow the content that you're watching and you're consuming to be beneficial to you, and it is beneficial, it can be, then it's worth it. It's good. It can be a beneficial thing to do. The problem is most of the content out there is not super beneficial for you, and if you don't specify what you want to consume, you'll get lost and you'll be there for hours consuming things that are driving you in the complete wrong direction. And this is speaking from someone who, I cut it out completely a while ago, and I was very happy with that decision to not have it on my phone, to not get distracted by this stuff all the time. And I think it can be necessary. It was necessary for me at the time to completely cut it off and just dive headfirst into the stuff that I needed to do at the time to work, to make sure that I put my head down and did a fantastic job putting in effort day in and day out without a lot of distractions. But as someone who is going to get social media back again and has a unique lens, having completely cut it out of his life for over a year at this point, I think that I've built up the discipline to only go on when necessary. Now, of course, this stuff is still very addicting, and as soon as I start going on it again eventually, which I don't have it now, whenever I release this episode, I'll probably have it again. And it's specifically for business purposes and for this podcast, where it's go on there, promote more of the podcast, and show I'm the person behind the person behind the podcast and the host and the leader of this whole platform and movement that I'm on. So it'll end up being something where I work on the social media to make sure that I can promote more and be that person and connect with more people as well whenever we expand the network of more exceptional undergrads and branch out even more and find more people, which is already happening as we speak right now. But there's the make sure that you understand the priorities there. Because if you find yourself scrolling through a whole bunch of stuff that's unproductive and you catch yourself, because this has happened to me before, like if I'm watching like YouTube videos where I'll still watch YouTube every now and then to make sure that I'll get some valuable content, but I'll cut out and make sure that I'm only watching stuff that's relevant to my goals. So I'll find myself every now and then watching a YouTube video or something where it's not super productive, and because you'll know in the moment, especially whenever you're disciplined enough, you'll understand, oh wait, like you probably shouldn't be doing this right now. And then you're like, oh, that's a good call. And then it's that decision right afterwards. Are you going to stop? Are you going to make sure that you hold yourself accountable and you cut it out and you move back? You're like, let's do something more productive. Let's switch to a different video that actually makes sense. So let's just entirely back out of the stuff. Or are you going to continue and sit there and scroll? Because as soon as you continue and when you know that something is wrong, but you do it anyways, that's much worse than just doing something that you don't know is wrong and continuing to do that. If you know that it's wrong, you're making a conscious decision to continue doing the thing that is wrong, and any repercussions that come from that could have been prevented because you knew that it was wrong and you made the decision to continue to keep going down that way. I think that's huge. That's going to be a huge thing in my mind for whenever I return on social media and remember to hold myself accountable to the standard of you're probably on there for like a few minutes, especially from like your personal account, like a personal account for me where it's not the business account, it's not the podcast, it's not me sharing more stuff, which that one, I'll be on that one probably a decent amount of time, not a crazy amount. not a insane screen time or whatnot. But the personal account that's like, go out there and just promote the podcast even more a little bit and network with more people. That's not a crazy amount of time on there. It's a do what you have to do. Cut it out. I mean, you've seen, that's the big thing too, is I've seen now what can happen if you remove social media and remove that distraction from my life. And I've never been happier in my entire life. I don't have this distraction of what everybody else seems to have, or at least not one that they can control as well. Because, like I said, I'm going to get it back and whatnot. And it's a matter of how you use and how you consume the content that you're seeing and how you use the tools. Because social media, at the end of the day, I mean, they're tools for you to use. Like, a lot of things are tools. This iPad that I have right here is a tool. The Google Doc that I have open for notes is a tool. These are just tools to drive you in the correct direction. And sometimes we lose sight of the fact that they're tools. We should use them as tools to build skills, to add tools to the toolbox that you have. And if you lose sight of that and you spiral yourself down, then you're negating the stuff that you could build.
One thing that I could talk about for hours is the impact movies can have on your life if you use it the correct way. I gave a persuasive speech the other day on why Christopher Nolan's the best director. And for those who don't know, Christopher Nolan's the director behind Inception, Interstellar, the Dark Knight series, Dunkirk, Memento, The Prestige, Tenet, I already said that, Oppenheimer, and what's the last one? I don't remember the last one. Anyways, and while doing my research, I think one of the most important things that I grasped from that is how there are underlying themes in every single one of his films that can be applied to life overall. You look at Inception. Inception looks at your dreams versus reality and the concept of time and how time can stretch or bend or compress depending on what state or flow you're in. Whether you're dreaming or not dreaming, your concept of time changes. Like you're meditating. You didn't even feel 2 hours went by for like 20 minutes. Same thing goes with whatever situation you make light of. You can look at Interstellar. Interstellar talks about greed and what it truly means to be human. Looks at love and passion, but then also where we fit in the cosmos and how grand things are. You take that into perspective and recognize the things you do on this earth, while may seem insignificant in the grand scale of things, have a huge impact for the people around you. You've seen the movie. You watched Cooper leave. You watched what that did to Murph. That had a huge impact on her. But then he took off into space, went off to Saturn, went through a black hole or a wormhole into a black hole. Everything. How grand space really is. How Earth is just a blip. It's doing that speech made me really think about every single movie that I've ever really watched and now try and analyze the themes behind it and how they can be applied to my life. Ready Player One, another example. Just a kid who goes onto VR and plays games. But the underlying theme of that is anyone can be anything if they truly work hard to get themselves to where they want to be. You look at Ender's Game. Not everything is as it seems. You have to switch perspectives, possibly. Quote from that is, "The enemy's gate is down." In the book and the movie, they're playing a game where they have to cross each other's gate. But the way Ender wins is by switching perspectives, switching his way across the battlefield, realigning where the gate was, switching his thinking, and that's what allowed him to win. Another thing from that movie, another underlying theme is you have to work in a team. You truly can't be the only one doing things. While you may be on your grind doing this podcast, you're still on a team. You have that, whatever mentor figure you have from your YouTube videos or your uncles, etc. Whoever you bring upon your podcast, this is your team. It's your community. Everyone I meet at college who I want to travel with, they're my team. They're my community. You're always going to be in a team. You're always going to be a group of people because that's just how we're wired to be social. And we select the people we want to interact with to be a part of our team. And it's just taking a step back, literally switching my perspectives on how movies are, appreciating the genius behind movies in the light of self-improvement and applications to life, truly has made movies so much more entertaining and that more applicable too, and makes me feel less guilty about sitting down for 2 hours for a pleasure movie, because then I'd be like, that one quote, add it to the repertoire of quotes, but then also look for ways to apply the themes that's going on. Like the other night, I watched The Mockingjay Part 2 for Hunger Games, and the main plot twist at the end was, I'm not going to spoil much, but how one person was recognized as a pawn in another person's game they didn't think about. And it made me think of other situations that I'm a pawn. What games am I playing with other people where I'm just small, insignificant chess piece in their grand board of things? And how can I either make the most of that pawn, because pawns can still win games, pawns can still checkmate with their team, or how do I get across the board and promote myself to be of better use? So it's just certain ways like that where same sort of ideas of restructuring your thought processes, going through different perspectives. And if you can take a movie and switch the perspective around, you can switch the perspective of anything. Another thing I like to try and pride myself in is the fact that I never am negative. Like, I am negative about 7 to 8% of the time in my life. I'm either neutral or in a positive light, because in the end, worst case scenario, I learn and grow from it. And it's the same understanding of you're a blip on a blip in a blip, going back to Interstellar. Nothing you do is truly, truly, truly super, super impactful depending on your perspective on it. It can either be the most impactful thing in the world or the most minute thing ever. Just switching that perspective. And that's something that I pride myself with, is knowing when to switch perspectives, knowing how to shed things in a good light or in a neutral tone or in a necessarily negative tone to then learn from it and adapt from it. Which is, I just unpacked a lot. I'm probably going to spark another hour-long conversation, which I'm so grateful for.
I think the not being negative take at the end there, where you said only about 7 to 8% of your life are you negative and the rest you're neutral or positive. I think that that's huge. I think mindset and attitude massively impacts the way that you're unpacking your life. A good example of this was whenever I rushed multiple times for the business fraternity on campus, which basically every single one of my friends is in, except for myself, including Mr. Jack here. And the first time I rushed, I made a mistake, obviously. Did not make it into that. Not something we're going to shed a tear on. Doesn't matter. This entire situation doesn't matter. It just reminds me of perspective. that I did not make it in, and I decided, that's the time whenever I deleted my social media. I started committing myself to even more reading, to even more meditation, to even more lifting. Not specifically because of this outcome, but looking back on that now, shifting my perspective from here, if I didn't have that happen, where I didn't get in that first time I rushed, I would not have been able to create an entire different routine for myself to where I could get better for the next time I rushed. Now I rushed the next time, did not make any sort of mistakes or whatnot. I thought I did very well. I happened to not get in that time the second time I rushed as well, which is perfectly fine, because I look back on that now and I realize after that decision I doubled down even more. And that spring semester, when I did not make it in to that business fraternity on campus, is the real time when everything started to click. I really started to get in tune with my purpose and what I needed to be working on at the time, and ultimately what led me to 80,000 words plus of a book, and more down the road of creating this podcast and having a plan and taking action. And I mean, who knows if I made it into the business fraternity, or I made it somewhere else, or I made different decisions or whatnot, maybe I would not be sitting here right now. Maybe I would be complacent in the sense that I made it into the business fraternity. That was my goal at the time. Shifting the perspective on that, in the moment, I realized, especially after getting denied a second time at that point, and at that point not making any sort of a mistake that I know of, I immediately was like, well, hey, who cares? It doesn't really matter that much. It's not super important. You've got a lot of great things going for you now. Put your head down, work, and see what happens. Because for all you know, when all this stuff is done, the people in the business fraternity, how professional and whatnot as they are, is it really going to matter at the end of the day if they made it into the business fraternity, but you became super successful and they're not as successful? Are we really going to look back and be like, oh, the business fraternity is the end all be all of who's going to be super successful? Not picking on you for being in the business fraternity or whatnot, because I know you've got a lot of great things going for you. We've been sitting here for a while, but it just makes you think, like, sometimes decisions are out of your hands, and when you shift your perspective on, like, why is this happening to me, to who cares, move forward and shift into something that's going to make you a better person today, and learn from what happened, see how you reacted, see how you're going to react to something next time, shift your perspective, move forward, and ultimately you might lead yourself down a path that you never thought was possible at the time, but you're very happy for certain circumstances showing up and pushing you in a different direction than you thought you would go, which goes to show you, like I said earlier, nothing ever goes to your plans. Nothing ever goes to your plans. And when you accept that and you realize, man, this is probably happening for a reason. I don't know what the reason is just yet, but it's probably happening for a reason. And when you realize that, even whenever you can't trust that what's going to happen is going to be best for you in that moment because it's scary and you don't understand, eventually you'll probably look back and be like, wow, what if I achieved what I wanted to at that point? How far off would I be if I'm back there? If that was my end all be all at the time, and I ended my goal there, and I didn't have the sense of emptiness or unfulfillment where that eventually drove me down a completely different path. When you think about stuff like that and you shift your perspective, it's crazy. It can be very crazy. It just going back to like what food you ate this morning or whatnot. Who knows? Maybe you didn't go to the Starbucks that, I don't know, was packed with cars or whatnot, and it took forever to get a coffee, and you went to the Dunkin' Donuts instead. Maybe you got out of bed late today, and the Dunkin' Donuts is closer to your work or whatnot, and you drove over there, or I should say school for this, but like the Dunkin' Donuts is closer to your school, and the Starbucks is closer to your house or whatnot, but you saw that there was a big line because you got up late, then you went to the Dunkin' Donuts, you got a coffee, and everything worked out fine. You made it on time, but you didn't have to wait through the entire crazy line at Starbucks. If you shift your perspective and realize, oh, like it's actually not that big of a deal, this is what happened, and I actually ended up being better because of that. As much as that's a silly random story about two coffee shops that randomly came to my head, not a note in the slightest bit at all, it shows you perspective can be everything. And sometimes it takes a second for you to be able to see that from a different perspective. But eventually, with enough time, you'll see, oh, actually that was a good thing.
I think that is the most powerful skill, is being able to shift your perspective, hands down. Definitely the most valuable thing I've done for myself, because nothing else has been able to start or even remotely get close to completion without that perspective shift. Because if you can't shift your perspective, you can't recognize what's going wrong, because you can't analyze the benefits of it. I have seen people ruin their whole days because they had to park like 2 blocks further than usual, or their coffee wasn't as hot, or their exam score wasn't as high as they had liked. Whole days ruined. And it just goes back to the "you're not here for long" whole statement that has become my motto of sorts. It goes back to that, where nothing's ever that deep. You just have to understand that truly and be able to shift your perspective to recognize that. At the end of the day, you got your extra steps in. You drank less of the coffee because it wasn't as hot, so it was less caffeine to go towards your caffeine addiction. You now know what you did wrong to then learn how to do things correctly next time. All of it, there's benefits in everything and everything you do. You just have to be able to shed light on that, be able to switch that perspective to recognize that it's not that deep. Doesn't matter that much. Had to park 2 blocks away. So what? Coffee wasn't as warm. So what? Got a 70 on my exam when I wanted an 80. So what? At the end of the day, if you're going the traditional college route, you're going to get a piece of paper, because you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you weren't. You get that piece of paper and you're going to get a job. If that's your route, the 2 blocks away, it's not that deep. The 78 on your exam, it's not that deep. Employers don't really look at your GPA. They care more about the skills and the stories you can tell. That's what gets you into interviews more. I look at people's resumes all day and I'm like, can you tell a story off of that? I help people with internship applications and interview prep. It's, can you tell a story? That's what gets jobs nowadays. Can you get a story that showcases your skill? And if you can do that, your lukewarm coffee didn't matter. Your 78 on that exam didn't matter. It's just being able to shift the perspective to analyze the benefits, understand the faults, learn from them, and truly take that step back to recognize what matters, what doesn't, and taking that leap of faith of what matters to truly get yourself to where you want to be.
I think that's a fantastic point. And I'd like to leave it with that for tonight. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
This has been absolutely fantastic. The fact that we made it through, I think, like 3 or so points on this that I had for my notes is a testament to how absolutely fantastic you did today. Especially, you said this was your first podcast as well. Yeah. I think that once you have a bunch of books out, you know what you're doing. I think you speak on your topics that you have from your books and maybe throw a podcast out there as well. And there you have it, folks. We hope you enjoyed another episode of Exceptional Undergrads. If you found inspiration in today's episode, remember, your journey to excellence starts with one action. Head on over to our website, exceptionalundergrads.com, for more resources and to stay connected with our community of exceptional achievers. As we bid farewell to our exceptional guest, Jack, and the entire Exceptional Undergrads community, I leave you with these key takeaways. All the moments in your life have made you into the person that you are today. There's benefits from everything that you do. Only you can make the changes for yourself. Self-reflection is massive to make sure that you are on the right path. Knowing how and when to change perspective is also massive. And lastly, nothing is ever that deep. Now for our resource section from this episode. First, we have Opal app, which is to reduce your screen time. It's what Jack used. My Meditation, again, which is Headspace, not sponsored, as well as a couple books from Alex Hermosi, as we mentioned him, on $100 million offers, as well as $100 million leads. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Exceptional Undergrads. We're always looking for new undergrads to showcase in future episodes. If you are or know anybody else that could be perceived as an exceptional undergrad, please visit the Apply Here page on our website and fill out the application showcasing your talents. If you enjoyed today's episode and found it beneficial, please send it to a friend. My goal is to share different perspectives and knowledge to help others, and sharing this episode is the best way for you to help. As always, stay exceptional.